Jim. He's dead.
Welcome to Improv Autopsy. I'm your host, Stephen Cadwell. This is part one of my interview with Brian Kapell. Brian is part of the generation of Madison and Milwaukee residents who ended up spreading improv to the diaspora, sometimes even intentionally. I phrase it that way because it seems that wherever Brian would move, improv would find him. It seems fitting, then, that he introduced Berlin to improvisational theater and continues to teach and play within that now much larger community he once nurtured in its infancy. I was introduced to Brian by Mark Hervey, a childhood friend he met in choir class, and who Brian introduced to improv by inviting him to his theater sports show. Mark would go on to become one of the Burt Firstners, which makes Brian a Burt Senior in a way, at least as far as Mark goes. Improv, comedy, and Brian are irrevocably linked, and this has led him to open clubs, lead an improv group for the deaf, and eventually it found him in Berlin. But I'll let him tell you the rest. Welcome to part one of Brian Kapell's Improv Autopsy.
Well, it was Mark Hervey that mentioned you when I talked to him.
I heard him mention me. I listened to him go, why? Oh, yeah, well, Mark, of course.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's credit or blame for getting him involved.
Hey,
but,
whatever. We're made to meet each other. You know, we are made to. Was that like a bad book? I think it was no, it wasn't that bad. But, I think it was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It was some new age book. I didn't like it very much, but there was one thing it said, like, we meet people to either learn something or to teach something. And every single opportunity is a chance to learn or teach. And, with Mark, well, we were epic friends. He brought me through some really dark time too. And we made it, we made it. It's a really good, you'll hear about it. I'm going to have to bring it up. Right. Yeah. But he's a great guy. What a wonderful person. Really.
yeah.
I mean, there's some people that are just pure glow. They make everything better. And Mark is one of those guys that would just, he would get into your car and your car would work better. I mean, yeah, I actually remember thinking that one time after a comedy sports tournament in Milwaukee, and we all got together and we drove up to Door County. I don't know. Oh, you know Door because you're from Michigan.
Yeah.
We drove up to Door County to see, I think, Lee Becker or something like that. And everyone loaded into my car. We drove up there and I was going, man, my car is running better right now. And I just look over at Mark and he goes, yep, I just do that. I just can do that. And then we just laughed. But it was somewhat valid. There's some people who have light. He's a light. Yeah. He was a really heavy Christian when we first became friends. And I remember him wanting me to get into Christianity. And as a Jew, I was like, dude, I'm pretty happy where I'm at. But he would take me to like Christian rock bands shows in Madison. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, God is good. Yeah. But we would be like Christian rock is like the craziest combo. Because I was into heavy metal or punk. I was a punker. I really grew up in punk rock. But we loved each other very much. He's still a real dear heart to me. I look around my room. I look around everything, and I just see these are all. We put up our little memories, everywhere in our room. And here I am in Berlin, Germany, and I just look around, and it's improv is so about looking backwards and bringing up anything from behind and putting it into the story. I think that's valid. I think that's sort of true. I think I think improvists are real sentimentalists because we really are bringing what just went down and bringing it up to the now. Anyway, well, let's see where we go.
I will say my improv friends are my best friends. The friends that I met through and doing improv, they're the ones that I stay in touch with, and they're the ones that are my closest friends. So speaking of origins, then, what was your introduction to improv? When did improv first make it on your radar?
So I was studying theater in Madison in college, in the theater department there, and this is 1985, and what a year! So my father killed himself in February.
Ugh.
And I was 20. And that was really, really awful. Imagine that. But what happened next was really really profound. So that was February. I got through the next couple months, and then Dick showed up. Then Dick came to town and came to the theater department, put up a poster, and said something to the effect of starting a comedy group. Um, come come audition. And so we meet up, and it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna do a comedy show. Okay. He says, yeah, but there's no script. There's no line. We make it all up. And we were just looking at each other like, huh? Oh, I don't, okay. And this was Mike Rock and Pat Walsh and all these people you've heard over the names, Jeff Kramer, all these folk. And we're like, okay, let's. And then the first game he does is, what are you doing? What are you doing? And man, from that moment, I knew it was right. I mean, it was so breathtakingly, rawly fun. And I so needed a father figure, right? And so Dick, he's like a little Jewish guy like I am, but he's so not my dad. He was a really happy man. He was a kid, but he was like 20 years older than we were, but he was a total child. And so he starts training us. We practiced for 8 weeks, 8 weekends during that summer, May, June, July, and then we start playing August 85. And so, yeah, I crossed over the 40-year mark this past August on that. And we started doing shows, and there was just no stopping it. And it just raced through the city. We were on fire between Milwaukee Theater Sports back then. You've heard that it was called Theater Sports back then, with a Z, always with a Z, Comedy Theater Sports Z. And Dick had a reason for that, but I can tell you that later. we were just on something, and we were crafting games, new games all the time. People would go down to Milwaukee and play against Milwaukee, and then we would bring a new game, and then they would come up and play with us, and they would bring a new game, and we were just starting to cross pollinate just this vocabulary of new games, and figuring it out, because there was really very little guideposts for us except for a Spolin book. My Spolin book was just so wrecked by the first year. I can't. We would just try to get our little nuggets. See, let me be really. There were some really funny people in that group. I was not one of them. I didn't think. I was not that. I was not. I felt like I was not on the funny, but I was a theater nerd, and so I was a technician of it. I could look at a story for dramatic effect and figure out what it needed. And so we were all contributing what we were good at, in a way. And that was also the secret of that juicy time, was that we all seemed to fit together in a really interesting way. And we were 20 years old, so we could do no wrong. We were totally fearless. And as Mark Hervey mentioned, that we moved quickly from this Midway Motor Lodge, where we had our first set of shows, and they were idiots for canceling us because but they had like this dinner buffet and then a show, and it was such a weird place. It was a motor lodge. It really was. But they said they would host us, so whatever. We went from there. We went to this, I think, then Zingers, then to the Pizza Hut, which Mark Hervey mentions. And by then, we changed it over to Comedy Sports. Whatever reasons you can think of why it was changed over, I'll tell you, we pissed off Theater Sports. We rewrote their show. We said, what I can recall is, we said, this is an okay show. This is an okay form, but we want a comedy show. We don't want to do just theater. We need that aggressive, fast sporting event feel. a real performance concept. So we started to create all of these competitive format games. That's how I recall it. It was like head-to-head games. How does the other person push you to top them? And the electricness of time limits, or the kind of a game where the audience knows more than the players know, like these naive rounds, and the step out games, and the scenic games, scenic head-to-head games. All of these were like, let's craft this and then put it in a certain order, play order, that would just smack people across the face. They had no idea what was coming up next. Whereas theater sports was, okay, give us a suggestion for the human condition. Okay, we'll take another suggestion for the human condition. And then we were like, yeah, we just want to pop them in 4 minutes. The motto of comedy sports was, to make the world a funnier place in 4 minutes or less. 4-minute game, 4-minute hit.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, and then you switch to another game, they're just flashing by you, and the audience just cannot even catch their breath. And we were good. I mean, at least we thought we were good, because we were 21, 22. Yeah, that was the first 2 years maybe of the show. And then I went off to DC to start the Comedy Sports DC team with Pat Walsh. And that was like the 87, 88. And I trained up that company, and we started playing in all these various venues. And it was like, of course, what we needed to do was have our own place. And you're looking at the man right now, Stephen. I mean, I was in Old Town Alexandria, which, if you know Washington, D.C., is the bottom of the diamond, the very bottom. This is George Washington's town. And Old Town Alexandria is like King Street runs through, and then there's Prince Street. These are like these are really, really beautiful old colonial town. And there on King Street, 1324 King Street, was Terlitsky's Deli, a Jewish deli. And all it needed was another Jew to go in there and talk them up and sweet talk them. They had this back room, brick wall, a brick back room. They had an upstairs bar, and this back room, which was this roofed patio and deli. So I go in there and I just say, listen, love to do my show there. And they're like, all right. Because their son had been on Broadway. And so they were, bless Mitzi Terlitsky. I mean, the Terlitsky family, God bless them, because we opened the Laughing Lizard Lounge. Or I did. I got to open up my first club, the Laughing Lizard Lounge. And this was our home. And it wasn't just that. It wasn't just improv, man. I opened it up to all sorts of improv groups. The biggest claim to fame was I got to be Dave Chappelle's first gig. I was Patton Oswald's and Tanya and Wanda Sykes' home. So many DC starts were there. And we all were young and it was just such an electric time. I did murder mysteries. I did sketch comedy. We did improv, stand-up. We did in that theater. And then upstairs, I had my bar room. I had a live band every night for free. So I had 13 shows a week, 7, I think, comedy shows, and 5 band nights. And we just had a blast. I mean, it was really fun. And this is where, these first franchises of the whole Comedy Sports brand started to occur. Then Chicago began, and Minneapolis and San Jose, and these are all buddies. And we were part of this new electric thing coming out of Madison. And that was really, really exciting times. Yeah.
So where did the name Laughing Lizard come from? Was that just you liked the alliteration, or was there more to it?
There wasn't much more to it. The Laughing Lizard just kind of came up, and then the lounge came out because it was going to be a dive. It was just the nature of Terlitsky's Deli. It was kind of a dive. And so we all had our smoking jackets, our silk smoking jackets, and it was very lizard, buzzy kind of, and crazy, man. It was really fun. Yeah, we would do 2 shows of comedy sports on Friday, 2 shows on Saturday. Just turn over that room. It had about 75 seats in this room. You could order food, you could order drinks, and and I would be like, I would fill the room. I would do the seating chart. I would get everyone in. I'd throw on my shirt. I'd throw on my jersey and get on stage and then race off and do all the, get all the bills out and then tear it apart and reset and do it again. I mean, it was fun and wild, 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 wild. I mean, if you just want me to keep going on this history, because then it even gets weirder, of course.
Well, before we progress, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that you said that it was What Are You Doing that got you hooked.
Yeah.
I just introduced my group up here in St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Michigan, to What Are You Doing?
Uh-huh.
And it was something that we did at SAC as an elimination round before the show to divvy up which team was going first. Either that or warm-up round, either or. But it's such a simple game, but it's also so fun and so fast.
Do you play it with the variations? All the different themes? Do you play it with initials? Do you play it with rhyming? Do you play the Jeopardy round? Do you know all the variations of it?
I don't know all the variations, but I will say my group really took to the initials, getting initials.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it makes it so much more fun.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a fun challenge. So rhyming, I presume you're just 2 words that rhyme.
Yeah. What do you do? You get the suggestion for tree, and every suggestion, every what are you doing has to rhyme with tree.
Okay.
I'm trying to break free. I'm aiming to, to see. You get it. Yeah. There's that.
What's the Jeopardy?
Jeopardy
version?
is cool. It's a verbal round. So you give the answer and the other person comes up with the question. So if I say Bear Harbor, Michigan, whatever, and the other person is going to say, where was the war of the Native Indian War where they finally gained independence from the colonialists happen, or whatever. And then right away, you give a new one. So it could be, but you could give locations, people, times, dates, nouns, of course. 14 blueberries, is the answer. And you got to come up with a question to that and then throw out another answer. And the other person has to come up with a question. They call it the Jeopardy round. I don't know why it was raked into What Are You Doing, but we used to play it. Once it got too wild and frantic, we would just throw in a Jeopardy round just to go, okay, whoa, because it would be this. Because some players are just great verbal players and others are really excellent physicals.
Yeah.
I do all these games. I mean, I still do them. Because I'm still playing. I'm still running shows. So we play Jeopardy. We play all these games. Still do.
And what was it about What Are You Doing? Was it just the spontaneity of it? Like, what about that lit your fire? Can you articulate that?
It is maybe my favorite rule about short form improv. I tell you to do something and you have to do it. I love that. I love it. Whenever I'm training and people are like, I don't know what to do next. It's, well, you don't have to do anything. You tell the other person to do something and they'll have to do it. Just there you go. That's an advance. You need to make advances. And the easiest advance is tell the other person to do something. And then you don't even have to do it. You can have them do it and put them into trouble. That's it too, is you're putting the other person into trouble. And that was that might be one of the funnest parts of short form.
Yeah.
You're playing the rule to get the other person in and see how they can, how are they going to hit the ball over the net? Are they going to just lob it over? Or are you going to hit it with a spin that really throws them into a little challenge, So that's what I loved about it. And I love the back and forth. I often, when I play with students, it's like, get rid of the I'm. Don't say I'm, get right to the verb, and then play for the rhythm of it and push for rhythm. And then suddenly it gets faster because you're working the vibe of it. And it pushes a boundary because of that competitive style nature of it.
Yeah.
It blew me away. When I saw it, I was like, this is fun. Because, everyone's so concerned all the time about how are they doing? How am I doing? How am I doing in a game? What if you're playing What Are You Doing? You have no time to check yourself, or you're out. You're out. So you want to get a performer, an actor, out of their heads and off of their checking themselves. Just give them a task, make them do something. Get them polishing a table. Get them to do something. And what are you doing is all about that. It's all about that.
And were you into sports?
I mean, I'm a little guy. Mark Hervey and I, we're small guys. I mean, I love basketball, but I can't, I'm not going to be able to beat people at basketball. I remember I met Mark Johnson. He scored the goal in the Olympics against Russia, the miracle on ice. He came into my restaurant where I was working in Madison, and I had to try to talk to Mark about, I play this improv show, and so we're kind of alike because I do this competitive form, and he's just yeah, sure, but because it's hand to hand, it's really nobody can understand it unless you see a really good comedy sports match. You play to win, but you don't care if you lose.
Yeah.
That's Dick's promise. And if you play that way, you'll never regret. You have no regrets. Play to win. It really, it's a joyful attitude that really brings up another level of your spirit. Your edge is if you're playing to win something. But at that same time, you're not interrupting the person. You're not getting mean about it. Beating somebody has taught me a whole philosophy. Beating someone in an improv match it's about making the audience laugh. Takes the pressure off of the whole thing. And then I can be light as a feather in terms of competitive edge in all things now. I've been that way for 40 years. It's just like, was it a good game? Yeah, then it was then it was all right. Then we did whatever game you're watching. Then it's more to taste, Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you rehearsed for how long before the first show?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
8 weekends.
And this was a group of people that had very little, if any, improv experience before that, right?
No, none. We were not improvising.
Yeah.
No, we didn't know improv. We knew theater.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that first roster, they were all theater majors, all of them. I think so. Yeah, all theater majors. And that was it.
I love the timeline because I so often hear it was like, well, are we ready for a performance yet? Or they're just not ready to perform. And it's like, it's
not the answer.
Until you get there, you're never going to be ready until you're doing it. And then that's the best preparation for it is doing it. But so many people hold off.
We had like about 12 games. I mean, we played 5 things, I think, twice. Each team got to play it once, things like this. It was, and then, but right from there, I mean, if I look at those fundamental games, those are, when I'm training up a new group now, just started to train a new company here in Berlin. And those are the first games that I'm going to make sure they know. Are those same games that we learned 40 years ago, that first generation of games, because from there was this progressive development of, well, what skill does that build on? And I mean, replay games have brought up this whole idea. Character games have brought this whole breadth of character, different character games. And we were really lucky to just get to flesh out those first few and get the morsels of it, get solid in that. And then all these other games just started becoming, they became, yeah. Gimmick games started happening too. Like I remember one, God, they were so epic. Like Milwaukee came up to play us and we came up with some epically great, we had a great scene game that we wanted to show and we killed in it. I don't even remember what it was. We were so, yes, that was amazing. And then Milwaukee comes up and then they play Emotional Symphony. We had never seen it before. Emotional Symphony, the easiest gimmick game ever. They destroyed us with that game. It was 2.5 minutes of absolute hilarious quality joy. And I mean, I just still remember that one. I was just like, we were just dumbfounded at what a simple game that was, and yet how it just landed for everyone to enjoy. Yeah. funny stuff.
What games were you integral in creating? Do you remember creating any specific games when you were doing that?
Oh man. I mean, when we would be sent, I remember like to do replays, and it's like you explore, you would be responsible for this genre, and then you'd come and you would teach the group maybe that genre's the different dynamics of that kind of a genre. There's that. I mean, a lot of exercises I came up with. I came up with a lot of exercises. I do recall. I'm a tree. I would just but if you ask me right now, I couldn't really give feedback on which ones I was completely involved in coming up with. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, no problem. I recently was back in Orlando and played a couple shows at SAC, and I saw they have the SAC playbook. I have a copy of it around here somewhere, but my copy is orange. And I was like, oh, there's a new one. It was black and it was like twice as thick. And I was like, oh, people have been doing some things since the last playbook. And then I love the experimentation and the like one of the games, even in the old book, I think it was just called Game Lab, and it was create a title from the audience, like get a couple words from the audience, and that is now the name of the game, and figure out how you play whatever that is, and then play that.
Yeah, we call it Game-O-Matic.
Okay.
We call it Game-O-Matic, and we get initials from the audience, and from that, everyone comes up with a game, or your team gets to come up, like there's three of us in a team maybe, and we get a set of initials, and we each come up with a game. And then the audience decides which of that game the other team will play. The other team will play,
Yeah.
which is important because you want to screw with them, right? You want to say, so whenever somebody says, a verb, you have to do a cartwheel or whatever, you've got it, and then you're really good because you don't have to do it. You just get to make them do it. Right. And then the other team gets to have their karma and then they get initials, and come up with it. We call it Game-O-Matic. Yeah. It's a great game.
Yeah. And I know I've witnessed, maybe even participated in some where it's like, it's a great game just for effing around with the other team. But every once in a while, it's like, oh, that was brilliant. And we need to write that down and keep that. And that's going to become an actual game.
That's a good game. Yeah, that's a good game. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that, of course, is the whole premise of sketch work written out of, of the Chicago scene is a lot of their best sketches. Sketch work comes from their improv.
Yeah.
But that's the foundational. What's the game? What is the game in long form? The game becomes a good sketch. That's a sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was it then? You performed at the place with the buffet, the Motor Lodge. And from there, I forget what you said. And then it was the Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Zingers. Yeah. I found that venue.
Zingers.
Yeah. I found that venue. That was a great little room. Not that small. I think we saw, it used to be a music venue. U2 played there. I mean, I saw some incredible bands there. And then us. Then we turned it into an improv venue, I think one night a week. And then I don't remember why it didn't work out, but for the better, because then we got onto State Street where the Pizza Hut was. And State Street is the main line is the main downtown line of Madison. Yeah, so.
Was Dick did he have a theater sports history, or was his goal to use that as a template and create something new, or what was the relationship there? Because hearing you talk about how it was put together and the ideas behind the competition being very sort of, this is show quality kind of stuff and very thinking about the audience and their enjoyment of it, seems very Johnstonian in a lot of ways. So you'd think he would have been more on board with what y'all were doing.
I talked to him quite a few times over the years because he would come to Berlin and teach workshops here. And I got to respectfully take him around town and talk to him a lot. He had known about our show and he did not like what we were doing with it. He was a bit of a curmudgeon anyway, but what theater sports and what a lot of the loose moose community up there in Canada, what they did not like, from my understanding, is our gimmicky games that would be more stand-up-y, but more like one-liner kind of things. And that took it away from just the theatrical improv. Okay, respectfully, yeah, that's right. We wanted a real comedy show. And to do that, it's not like we had a lot of lot to compare to. We were 21 years old, but they did not really like what we were doing with their show, with theater sports. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, we weren't purists because we were too young to be pure
Yeah.
of anything. We loved to play. We loved to play fast. We wanted the audience to be as involved as they could. That was a big feature of it too, by the way, is that
Yeah.
we really wanted the audience to tell us what they wanted to laugh about. So we would be going to the audience all the time for suggestions. That referee was a vital component of getting suggestions and being that link, because it's their show, it's the audience's show, and by getting their ideas they tell us what they want to laugh about. That's why we could do our shows for church groups and then a fraternity and then anybody. We were clean. It was a clean show. That was important to Dick. That separated us from many other comedy shows. Stand-up was really coming into its own in the late 80s. And but it was, look at my duck, kind of stuff. And we were clean. And so that made us focus on different things, focus on the story. And because we were theater geeks, we really liked the narrative, the good storytelling. I still look at it like it's there. This is for the story. What are you doing is very unique. It doesn't really have a storyline. But almost every other game, you can find stories. You need to have a story because you're going to hang some strange rule onto this frame. The heart of it is the story. And then you got to do it backwards or sing it or, change characters, whatever short form thing gets thrown onto it. But we were always really, at least, I don't know but I always loved to be able to find out what is memorable about that story, not just the gags that we can tweak into there. So, and that's how I brought it up to Keith as well. The people who I got to work with, we all cared about those stories. And in the meantime, we're making the people, just laughing out of every hole they could, with funny stuff.
Yeah.
And Mark told you about the music, the band. I mean, oh my God, the Comedy Sports Band. Those early days were great.
I did see my first legit theater sports show just this last year that was theater sports, because SAC started, I believe, theater sports.
Yeah. Yes, they were. Yeah. SAC was playing theater sports.
Yeah. The show that I'm familiar with at SAC, the Duel of Fools, it's much more like a comedy sports show, I feel, than it is a theater sports show, or maybe it's a hybrid.
Definitely.
But the theater sports show, I got it, and it was really fascinating, and it was entertaining, but it is a different animal. And I feel like with the competition format, the way the SAC does it, the way that comedy sports does it, if all else fails, you have the story of team versus team going on as your through line for the show.
Yes.
So you've got that you can hang your hat on if everything else fails, but very rarely does that happen.
Theater sports definitely started to borrow comedy sports elements.
Yeah.
And when I see theater sport, because we have theater sports in Berlin, they have theater sports competitions here, where they bring in different cities play theater sports, and then they come to Berlin and play. They're taking a lot of comedy sports basic game lists and even rules and even fouls. I'm shocked, but yeah, they've become quite comedy sportsy. Not completely. Not the head-to-head games don't quite. It's not the same, but yeah.
So before we get beyond that, what took you from Madison to Washington? Did you go to DC? Was it to start a comedy sports there? Was it you threw a dart at a map?
No, Pat Walsh had already moved there with his wife, and he wanted to run a team there, and it just so went. I was itching to get out of town, out of Madison, and we just discussed it. And so I said I would come out to DC and train players and co-run it with him. He was a damn good manager, and I was a damn good trainer. We both, gave a good different what we could offer. I mean, he's also a damn good trainer. It was no question. But I didn't really get involved. It's only one person should be really, really running the numbers and so forth. So that's what that happened. And then with the Laughing Lizard, once I got the Laughing Lizard, I had to kind of step out of the running of comedy sports, because I mean I still did on terms of trainings and stuff, but actually when I think about it, I had to get out of that because I had so many other things rolling with the club. It was so full time because it was everything, and I was 25 years old by that point. Yeah, it was out of control. Fun, but had I stayed, it would have probably eaten me alive.
Did you leave with Laughing Lizard intact, or was it?
Okay, so here's the next part. So things were actually getting a bit tense between Patrick and I. But what happened was my mother went terminally ill, and she asked me to take care of her. So I packed up my stuff and I gave it all up. I left it all. I left it all. And I went back home to Madison and I took care of my mom till she died. And got to play comedy sports back in Madison, which helped me a lot. Still, the boys are still there. Mike and Mark and all these players that ended up going to New York, they were still there in Madison. They moved. I think. I mean, this was my mom died in '91. I think they left in the fall of '91. If I think. Anyway, that happened, and then it was the next phase. My grandfather, he died after seeing his daughter die. He just gave up, and this was all obviously another really difficult time, but through fate, and I could talk to you about that whole about being shown things. I've been shown many things, but I was led to do something very different. I was led to work with deaf actors. I decided I wasn't going to go back to the Lizard. They wanted me to. I mean, I could have, but I just felt like I just right now I just can't. So I put it out there that I want to do theater with deaf people. In a matter of, well, a few months, I had gotten invited to the National Technical Institute of the Deaf in Rochester, New York, to join their theater department. And I started working. I didn't know sign language, didn't know the deaf culture at all. But my double major when I was in UW Madison was in theater, and I also communicative disorders. So I started to work with deaf and with hearing disorders and things. It led me to it just was the right thing to do. I'm a very physical actor. Sign language always captivated me. I felt like there was something about working with deaf people that just called me. So I ended up in Rochester, and within about 3 months, no, and then I started a deaf improv team, and it was apparently the first time that ever been done. If I go back to the history, and I ended up no, I mean I've learned a lot of I did that might sound pretty brazen to say, but the deaf theater is quite tight, and so no one had ever seen anything like that. I was at the National Theater of the Deaf. I worked with Cleveland Science Stage Theater for many years. So all of it, I worked for every deaf theater in America in time. But before that, so I started a deaf improv team and in Rochester, and we had a blast. It was an amazing group. They do in short form as well. It wasn't, I mean, look, I love long form too, but short form seems to be easier to grasp and for audiences and for players, and it's a great edge. So I did another deaf comedy sports team. I brought them up to Montreal, in fact, for the Just for Laughs festival, and people couldn't believe what they were seeing. They just couldn't believe it. They just could not believe it, and they were really good. I mean, it's all sign language. I mean, it's very physical, so a lot of people could understand some of it, but the language, it was difficult to get interpreters to be able to keep up with them for the hearing audiences. They were a remarkable group, and it was really, really fun. Really eye-opening about giving focus, taking focus, watching entrances and exits, letting people give people turn taking, the patience of turn taking. Because if anything overlaps, if anyone is interrupting the other person, it's like it didn't happen. The audience, the actors, it didn't happen. So it taught me so much about about the physical world and the physical picture of the form. And I learned so much from them. Yeah, that was a really epic time.
Has that changed how you teach improv at all, that experience? Like, are there things that you do that you didn't do before?
Yes, very much. As I said, mostly about turn taking and about not interrupting each other and about, strangely, about status. They taught me a lot about status and how to show status physically. It turned me into a real physical theater junkie, and how subtle it is, and yet how very clear it is when I see it. So it's trained my eye in a very unique way to notice things, to see things that others might not catch, but you feel it.
When you said to yourself or put it out there that you wanted to work with the deaf, was that to get away from improv, or did you know that you would eventually create a deaf improv group? Like, was that
No, I had no idea I was going to do a deaf improv team. I just knew that I wanted to I wanted to get away from comedy. That's what I thought. Yeah. I thought I wanted to do something important. Yeah, I was like 27. I said, I got to do something important. I got to do something theater, not a silly comedy show. And then within months, it's a deaf improv team.
yeah, you could not escape?
But I mean, it's where I speak. It's part of my makeup. I mean, it's part of what I can offer people too, theatrically. And it's an easy form to practice. You don't need the script. You don't need to get together every night. It still continues to be, yeah, a big part of me here.
And what was the decision then to move to the next thing?
After the deaf theater?
Yeah, after you've worked with
Yeah.
the deaf community and deaf theaters
Yeah.
across the country.
Yeah. Well, this was, I mean, okay, so I worked in Cleveland, as I said, at Cleveland Science Stage Theater, and we were working really exciting stuff, touring the nation, doing all sorts of, we did a children's show, we did main stage productions. It was really fun. My girlfriend at the time, a deaf woman, we'd been cast together in Children of a Lesser God, and we fell in love. Antoinette, she's a great actress, and she had an inkling to go to California. So I followed that impulse. Jeff Kramer and Patrick Short, two Comedy Sports alumni, had gotten hired in Sunnyvale, California, to the California Theater Center. Sunnyvale is outside of San Jose, and from there they got planted out to the West Coast and then they set up their Comedy Sports teams. Anyway, so I contacted CTC and I got an audition. I landed the job, and so after about 5 years or so of that in Cleveland, I moved out to the Bay Area and worked at this children's theater. Worked as an interpreter for the deaf. Got up in San Francisco. It was really exciting, fun, but then I wasn't doing much. After the children's theater gig, I took a year and just was interpreting just to pay the bills and stuff. Then I got accepted into Cal State Long Beach for the master's program there in acting and theater. And we moved down to LA. She broke up with me, Antoinette broke up. I started to live a little bit. I got through the master's program. I was teaching at Cal State Long Beach. And then I met, even through Antoinette, I'll give her credit. Through her, I met Patricia. And Patricia is a German woman who just an amazing yoga teacher. She's I'm short. She's really tall. We fall in love. And we decide, she's just a remarkable teacher. I can see her right away. And I said, listen, I don't like LA. Let's go to Germany. Let's go to Berlin and open yoga studios. She's like, no, I like LA. I'm like, Patricia, there's not a lot here for us. There's a lot of dreamers. If you want to make a hit, let's build a studio in Berlin. So my last hurrah as an American, I was working with Deaf West Theater at the time. and they had put up a musical called Big River. And from Big River in their little 90-seat theater in West Hollywood, they took it to the Mark Taper Forum in LA. And then from there, we transferred it to Broadway. And that's 2003. And so I got to be there. I got to be part of that show as assistant to the artistic director, essentially his interpreter, and got to be deeply involved in that show. I got it to opening night. I got opening night on Broadway, and the next day I flew away. That was my last day as an American, and that was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome exit. Yeah, and then within we opened our first studio a year later. Our second studio 2 years after that. But in the meantime, of course, I opened up Comedy Sports. Well, it wasn't that. It was called Laugh Olympics. See what I did with that? See? A Laugh Olympics. See what I did? Yeah. Laugh Olympics. We did that for a bunch of years. I got accepted in. I went back. Patrick Short, who by that point was running Comedy Sports, the whole Comedy League of America, contacts me and goes, Brian, you're just doing Comedy Sports. Why don't you just call it Comedy Sports? And I'm like, well, okay. I got excited by that. And I part of the Comedy Sports network for a long time, I don't know, not long. It didn't really work for me. It didn't work for us. They wanted a clean show. Berlin doesn't want a clean show. They want a lot of money for their license. And I'm like, I'm performing in English in a town that doesn't speak English. My crowd is small. So you have to allow me to have a different kind of a license than you get in another city in America. They're like, nope, you got to pay the fee. I'm like, well, we can't do this. So I changed it to, ready? Comedy Shorts. See what I did with that? Which saddened some people, but whatever. I mean, I started the damn show. Comedy Sports was, it's like, I can't promise it. But then in the meantime now, I've been doing shows here for 21 years. And in that time, Berlin has become a center of improv in Europe. And it's because of this humble beginning that I got to plant and be a part of. I will admit a lot of it's been long form now. It came out of, I can explain that in a little bit, why it became kind of a long form city. But I've always still doing those short form. I love it. I do long form as well here, but the short form is my show. Yeah. That's my epic line from 90s that's a 30-year story in 5 minutes.
Did you do any improv when you were in California?
Sure. Yeah. I used to play with the San Jose team. I didn't play with the LA team because they had this strange paradigm about me needing to go through classes with them. And it's like James Bailey. I knew him when he was, 14 years old in summer stock. Anyway, the conditions of it, the rules are this and that. And I'm like, So I started to do improv with a couple great people in Long Beach. And now you probably know Nick Armstrong was with me. David Escobedo, who's very important in now with the Improv Boost. These are and a bunch of people in Long Beach. So we started doing improv shows there and having a good time. Yeah, that's what we were kind of doing. And theater. I was busy. I was kind of doing theater there. Long Beach, the program in Long Beach was a very Eurocentric style of theater. So it's kind of cool that I got to come here to Germany and kind of understand what was they were trying to approach here. Because in LA, it was like LA didn't get it, didn't understand the kind of theater that Long Beach was doing. It was called California Repertory Theater, Cal Rep, run by a good guy, a real weirdo at Cal State. But it was a really unique style of theater, very director-driven, concept theater. Think theater, he called it. He called it think theater. You know what I mean? Think theater. Okay. All right. Anyway, so it didn't resonate with everyone, and I get it. But now I see it. It's the stuff that people do here. It's there's no Neil Simon plays here. This is really weird stuff here. The live theater is, why is theater different than movies? You know, exactly. Why was painting, how can painting be different than photography, which is what brought the Impressionists out?
Yeah.
That's the kind of theater people do here, is to say you can go watch a little living room drama, watch it on film, it'll be better. Why is, what are you going to do to make this a theatrical piece? And I got to say, I do like that. It's weird, but you got to be open to weird here. And that's, yeah, you see that everywhere.
What was the impetus then for starting the improv group in Germany when the goal was the yoga studios?
Oh, because wherever I go, I open a group. Wherever I go, I play.
Yeah.
I did it with Jeff. I did it wherever I go. I would try to start a group.
If there would have been a group there, would you have been content with that, or would you still need to start your own?
I probably would have started my own. Yeah, because no one knows it like I do. I'm a pretty humble guy. I'm not brazen, and it's not about me. But I do. I have had critique from people who go, "Oh, Brian, let's do something different with this," and I'm like, "You can, but you won't be called comedy sports, or comedy shorts. You can call it something different. Go ahead, make up a different show, but comedy sports. I know what this show is.
Yeah.
So let's just run comedy shorts this way. You can create a new game, sure, but I know structurally what game kind of goes better after whatever game. I know the order that it can play at. I know the technique. I mean, I'm definitely still a student. I love taking class. My old student, who now runs the long form comedy cafe in Berlin, real give Noah and Josh Telson real credit. Originally my players, who now are two of the leaders of the improv community in I can say in Europe. They are excellent at what they do, and they run a really great club and concept. I take classes from them, and I love it. It's a long form. I still love to be shown things. And it's what drove them to do long form, because my short form was too stifling for them. That's what I showed them. And I was going through, actually, I didn't say this part, but so Patricia and I had a good time together, but we got divorced. And the divorce was quite devastating for me. And I wasn't in my best head. I was having the sleep apnea, which was really screwing me up. And so I was not able to lead the group as well as I wanted to. And they were getting restless because they were very hungry. And there was a really good combination of people there. Suddenly, so that they said, "Oh, hey, Brian, we want to do a different kind of a show. Is that okay?" They actually asked for permission. I remember. I'm like, "Please, please go do your thing." It's maybe a better way to put it, because I was just not in a position to lead very well. I was really a wreck. And this is what started the long form style that they were into. So this is the UCB style, really connected to them, of long form, and where they got away from, and now it's game, finding game. And they are excellent at what they do. They've created a club at the cafe that's very, very exciting. It's just no place for short form. They just make that very clear. So I can't perform. Our group can't be there because it's just they're pretty fierce about that. And at first that was a bit hard for me to accept, but at the same time, over the years, it's like, I've been doing this so long. It's like, in the moment, at least, it hurt, but I look back at it going, yeah, it's all right. It's okay. They wanted to stand up for their show and their club and their format. I go, all right. So I created another Laughing Lizard here in Berlin. I ran the Laughing Lizard Playhouse. I opened that a couple of years ago. That ran for about 3 years. And then I got a full-time job at my school where I teach drama. And I kind of had to choose. I was trying to run the club and have a full-time job, and I was just burning out. So a couple things happened at the club where it was like, you know what, this is not it. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I closed down the club. I closed down the group for about 2 years. And I said, now's just not the time for it. I need to focus on this. And it was a very productive time where I got to be a father, a more present father, and watch the theater department at my school become something. Because I was the theater department, I became I'm the theater department. So it was important that I stayed focused. Now, but I brought the show back. I just announced just yesterday. I told the new players. I had auditions over the past month, and just yesterday I wrote to the new players and told them, get ready. The new training program begins in January. So, as much as I want to get it out of my system, I just can't quite. It just won't let go of me. I won't let go of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where will you be performing? You're just bringing it back, bringing the show back.
We started playing again in the summer, and we're playing at a little club up in the northern part of Berlin. That we started there about 5 years ago. When they opened up, we started doing shows there. Is it 5 or something like that? And we're back up there. They want us to do a bunch of things up there. So we'll see. Though we're looking for more venues because now the group was about 8 or 10 of us. And now I just invited another 10 people to train. So in a few months, and these are not beginners, these are trained improvisers. I really got to say the quality of the scene here is much better than it's ever been. When we called for auditions, it was like, you're only going to get an audition if you got some training. So the people we saw were quite good, but they just don't have since we've been sort of out of commission for a couple years, they just don't have the short form experience. So I'm ready to do it. I will admit I'm not so pumped up to teach people these fundamental games. I'm really not, but I've got a couple good people who are going to help me and help train. That said, whenever I start training people in this, it's like, oh, do I really have to teach new choice? Okay, I'll do it. But then I do it, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's still so fun. Not for me, but for them, for the people, to see them, to see their eyes just light up and go, ow, now I get, ow, that, ow. You push you, and I know how to push a person to, I'll just get you to deliver. And then they're like, yeah, ow. And to see their thrill somehow gets me off too. I don't know. It still thrills me, but I'm not sure, it's a love-hate. There's no hate here. I mean, improv is what I do. I definitely do it. And I'm doing something else too. I'm working on on an online portal with my best friend. He teaches primary school. He calls it creative expression at the school. It's music, it's singing, it's dance, it's theater, it's improv. So I've taught him so many games. And so he's like, Brian, we just got to get this on video and just share it somehow. And so we're creating an online portal called the School of Fun. And it's going to be a whole slew of improv games for teachers and students. Pretty much a play the video, play the game. And we're working on the video library now. I hope we can actually deliver it. I would really love to get it documented and actually deliver it to the public. So that's a lot of work, and I got to figure out how to find the time for that too. Yeah.
So you've committed yourself to teaching New Choice one more time on video, where you don't get the feedback from the students, but one and done?
One and done. We'll see. And in the meantime, these new players gotta get their game up. These new players, I need to teach them. I need how to get their batting average up so that they have a more successful start. How they can find the story, commit to the story, even though they're getting derailed by their new choices. How do you still stay on track? It's a mysterious form. I think every improviser who you've probably spoken to have said that. It comes very naturally. I'm very comfortable getting up in front of everybody and not knowing what I'm going to say. I can't explain why that's so comforting, but it's where I belong. And it's kind of a superpower to be that fearless, I think, to be able to go up in front of any crowd and just say, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to make you laugh now. And to actually believe it and to know it, that I will deliver. And that's an incredible confidence.
Yeah.
Built on maybe I'm not fooling myself, but I think you're not alone up there ever. And whatever in comedy sports, if your story isn't that good, then the other team wins 5 points, and you've just done 4 minutes of improv on some game that was still much more exciting than anything else you probably have seen in a while. It just maybe wasn't the greatest story, wasn't the clearest relationship, that just didn't quite. You did a couple players had some denials or whatever, and so the other team wins. You debrief afterwards, and you go, we'll try it again next time. We'll talk about it at practice. But I still love it. Yeah, I don't know.
That's it for part 1 of Brian Kapell's Improv Autopsy. Listen to part 2 for more of Brian's improv story and stories, and he'll also answer my Proustiana questionnaire. Check out the show's Patreon for bonus content, and if you'd like to be interviewed or know someone who should be interviewed, check the show notes for my scheduling link. Thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.